Summer 1999. One movie turned a group of almost nobodies into pop culture icons overnight. The Mummy wasn't supposed to be a classic, but somehow it made its cast unforgettable. One became an action legend. One vanished from Hollywood completely. One quietly carried the franchise on their back. And one left us far too soon. 27 years later, the faces you remember have changed, but the stories behind them are even more shocking than the movie itself. This is the Mummy cast, then and now. 1. Brendan Fraser. Rick O'Connell. Brendan Fraser was the guy who played a caveman and swung from vines. Not exactly Oscar bait, but in 1999, at 30 years old, he was the perfect choice for Rick O'Connell. Charming, physical, funny without trying too hard, and willing to throw himself down sand dunes in 120-degree heat. The Mummy made Fraser a bankable action star, the kind of guy who could open a movie on his name alone. He followed it with The Mummy Returns, then rode the wave until his body and Hollywood both gave out on him. By the 2000s, Fraser had disappeared, not by choice, but by circumstance. He later revealed the toll: injuries from doing his own stunts, a brutal divorce, depression, and a 2003 sexual assault by a Hollywood foreign press executive that left him blacklisted and broken. The phone stopped ringing, and Fraser spent a decade in the wilderness. Then came The Whale in 2022, directed by Darren Aronofsky, where Fraser played a 600-pound English teacher with such raw vulnerability that audiences wept. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 2023, becoming the first Canadian to claim that honor. In 2026, at 57, Fraser is riding a second wave. His film Rental Family just released to critical praise, and he's confirmed to return for The Mummy 4 alongside Rachel Weisz, scheduled for May 2028. He's also balancing big-budget spectacles with intimate dramas, and for the first time in years, he's choosing his work instead of chasing it. The comeback wasn't about luck. It was about survival. 2. Rachel Weisz. Evelyn Carnahan. Rachel Weisz was 28 when she played Evelyn, the clumsy Egyptologist who could read hieroglyphics but couldn't walk through a library without knocking over a ladder. She'd been working steadily in British theater and indie films, but The Mummy was her international breakthrough, the role that made her a household name and proved she could anchor a blockbuster without losing her sharp intelligence. After The Mummy Returns in 2001, Weisz walked away from the franchise, choosing artistic credibility over easy money. She won an Oscar for The Constant Gardener in 2005, played a manipulative courtier in The Favorite 2018, and starred in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Melina Vostokov in Black Widow. In 2023, she took on dual roles in the Amazon series Dead Ringers, playing twin obstetricians with chilling precision. In 2026, at 55, Weisz is at the peak of her powers. Her Netflix series Vladimir just premiered in March to strong reviews. She's filming the psychological thriller Chance on a wet afternoon in London, and she's officially signed on for The Mummy 4, the first time she'll play Evelyn O'Connell in 25 years. Married to Daniel Craig since 2011, she runs her own production company and is an advocate against AI de-aging technology being used without actors' consent. She's no longer just the girl from The Mummy. She's a titan who happened to start there. 3. John Hannah. Jonathan Carnahan. John Hannah was the Scottish actor who made Cowardice endearing. As Jonathan Carnahan, Evelyn's treasure-hunting brother, Hannah delivered every punchline with impeccable timing and survived the entire film despite being completely useless in a fight. At 37, in 1999, Hannah had already earned a BAFTA nomination for 4 Weddings and a Funeral, where his reading of Funeral Blues became one of the most quoted moments of the decade. But The Mummy gave him something different, a career as the lovable scoundrel in big-budget adventures. He returned for all 3 Mummy films, then pivoted to television, playing the ruthless gladiator school owner Baiatus in Spartacus, Blood and Sand, a role so far from Jonathan Carnahan, it proved Hannah's range. He's worked steadily ever since, appearing in everything from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to the medical drama Transplant. In 2026, at 63, Hannah is the narrator of the BBC's Race Across the World, a job he's held since 2019, and recently starred in the film The Incomer. He's been married to actress Joanna Roth since 1996, has twins born in 2004, and lives quietly in London. He never became a household name in America, but he's never stopped working, and that's its own kind of success. 4. Arnold Vosloo. Imhotep. Arnold Vosloo had one job: play an ancient Egyptian priest with barely any dialogue and make audiences believe he'd destroy the world for love. And he did it. The South African actor was 37 in 1999, already a decorated stage performer in his home country, and had worked with director John Woo on Hard Target. But The Mummy made him a global villain. Vosloo played Imhotep straight. No camp, no winking at the camera, just a man cursed for loving the wrong woman and willing to burn civilization to get her back. It was a brilliant performance, buried under CGI and bandages. But it worked. He returned for The Mummy Returns, then became Hollywood's go-to for stoic bad guys, playing Zartan in the G.I. Joe films and terrorist mastermind Habib Marwan in 24's fourth season. In recent years, Vosloo has split his time between South Africa and the United States, appearing in Netflix's Ludic, 2021, Silverton Siege, 2022, and Sniper, The Last Stand, 2025. At 63 in 2026, he's still working, still intense, and still the only actor who can say he played Imhotep and made it iconic. Married to Sylvia. A he since 1998, Vosloo has a stepdaughter and step-grandson, and he's comfortable being remembered as the villain who made you root for him anyway. 5. Patricia Velasquez. Anck-su-namun. Patricia Velasquez spent 10 hours getting painted gold for a role that had maybe 5 minutes of screen time, and she made every second count. As Anck-su-namun, the pharaoh's mistress, and Imhotep's forbidden love, Velasquez embodied danger, beauty, and tragedy. She was 28 in 1999, already an established supermodel, the first Latina to land major campaigns for Chanel and CoverGirl. But The Mummy was her Hollywood calling card. She returned for The Mummy Returns. He then continued acting in films like The Curse of La Llorona, 2019, and the TV series The L Word and Arrested Development. But Velasquez's real legacy is off-screen. In 2002, she founded the Wayu Taya Foundation to support indigenous communities in Venezuela, was named a UNESCO Artist for Peace in 2003, and became a Goodwill Ambassador for the Organization of American States in 2018. She's also a vocal LGBTQ+ advocate, one of the first Latina actresses to come out publicly. At 55 in 2026, Velasquez recently appeared in No Address, 2025, a film about homelessness, and is developing projects that center indigenous and marginalized voices. She'll forever be Anck-su-namun to millions, but she's spent the last 2 decades making sure her life meant more than a movie. 6. Oded Fehr. Ardeth Bey. Oded Fehr showed up on a horse, in wearing all black, speaking in a deep rumble, and became every teenager's crush in 1999. As Ardeth Bey, the leader of the Medjay warriors sworn to protect the world from Imhotep, Fehr brought gravitas and mystery to what could have been a throwaway role. The Israeli actor was 28, classically trained at Bristol Old Vic, and The Mummy was his first major American film. He returned for The Mummy Returns, then built a career playing soldiers, spies, and protectors. Carlos Oliveira in Resident Evil, Isle Lavin in Covert Affairs, and the voice of Dr. Fate in DC animated projects. In 2020, he joined Star Trek Discovery as Fleet Admiral Charles Vance, a role he's reprising in Star Trek Starfleet Academy launching in 2026. He also stars in the biblical drama House of David, 2025. At 55, married to Rhonda Tollefson since 2000 with 3 children, Fehr has quietly become one of the most consistently employed actors from The Mummy, balancing big franchises with character work and never losing the intensity that made Ardeth Bey unforgettable. 27 years is a long time, long enough for blockbusters to become nostalgia, for CGI to go from cutting edge to dated, for careers to rise, fall, and rise again. The Mummy shouldn't have worked. It was too earnest, Too ridiculous? Too dependent on a cast willing to commit to something that could have easily been camp. But it did work, because everyone involved understood the assignment. Brendan Fraser threw himself into sand and came out a star. Rachel Weisz played smart without being cold. John Hannah made cowardice lovable. Arnold Vosloo turned a monster into a tragic romantic. And the supporting players, Hyde, O'Connor, Avari, Jalili, and the late Bernard Fox, filled the world with life. Some of them are gone now. Some are legends. Some are still working, doing what they've always done. But all of them were part of something that lasted. If you were there in 1999, you remember. And if you weren't, you discovered it later. Because The Mummy refuses to die. Where were you when you first saw it? Kindly let us know in the comment section so we can see how locked in you are.